Hello my lovelies, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new, and welcome to my April wrap up. You guys, when I tell you I had an amazing reading month, I honestly don't know what happened this month. Usually when I come on and do my wrap up, I maybe have like somewhere in the region of 5 to 10 books for my monthly wrap up, and if I've managed to get to 10, that is like, whoa, slow down India. This month I read 20 books. And on top of that, I don't think there was a rating below 4 stars. This was the reading months to end all reading months. I just feel like the bookish gods looked down on me in April and just thought, you know what girl, you deserve a kick-ass reading month. So yeah, we have got a lot of books to talk about, so I think we should probably just get right into it, and I'll try my best not to ramble. So if you'd like to know all about the books that I read in April, then just keep watching. So the first book that I read in April was actually one that I started right at the end of March, and then I'm pretty sure I finished it within the first couple of days of April, and that is The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. If you know me, you will know that one of my favourite books ever is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow, so I feel like I've been putting this one off for a long time just in case it doesn't live up to The Once and Future Witches, but I adored this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was a bit of a departure for me because I have not read any fantasy for quite a while now really, and I'm pretty sure this is the only fantasy in my entire wrap up, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. In this one we follow January, who lives as the ward of the wealthy Mr. Locke, and in his massive mansion he has all sorts of weird and wonderful artifacts that are usually attained for him by January's father, who goes out on these expeditions to try and get them. So she is a young black girl living with a wealthy white man in the 1800s, I believe. She is not having the happiest time of it, and then she finds this book that tells tales of doors that you can go through and enter into another world, and she wonders if this is true and maybe she can escape into someone else's world. This one is like a proper adventure. It is fun, it's sad, it's emotional, and it's just so perfectly weaved. Like some of the little twists in this are just absolutely amazing. I loved it from start to finish, and it's got some of the most beautiful writing I've ever read as well. So yeah, 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read in April was also a 5-star read, and that was All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. I did do a reading vlog for this one with my best friend Hayley. We spent the day buddy reading this one. So this one begins with Quinn going to surprise her fiance, but when she gets there, outside the door there is another man pacing, and it turns out that his girlfriend and her fiance are inside doing the deed. Then we fast forward to 7 years later, and Quinn and this man are now married, but there is a huge strain on their relationship because they are struggling to have children. And we basically go back and forward between the beginnings of the relationship when they're first falling in love and they're so happy, and then now when everything is really sad and there is this horrible strain on the relationship. It's just as emotional as all of Colleen Hoover's other books, but it is just as perfect as well. I am a huge Colleen Hoover fan, you guys know that. She has become one of my favourite authors just this year, and this book was just such a beautiful and heart-wrenching read. Next I read Hex by Jenny Fagan. This is a short novella. I think it's literally less than 100 pages, and in this one we follow Galis Duncan on the night of the 4th of December 1591 when she is about to be executed the next day for witchcraft. She was a real woman and she was executed on this date. However, this is a bit more of like a fantasy, whimsical fantasy type story because we have another witch from our day going back across the plane to be with her on the night before she is executed, and it is just such a beautiful tale. It made me cry, and I am super interested in all things witchcraft and the history of witches, so this one was such an interesting read for me. Super quick but packs a big punch as well, and yeah, another 5-star read. Next I read Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. You guessed it, another 5-star read. Honestly, I don't know what happened this month. I was just loving all of the books. But in this one we follow Delilah Green and Claire Sutherland. It is dual perspective. Delilah Green goes back to her hometown to be the photographer for her stepsister's wedding, and she does not want to be back here at all. She has lots of horrible memories from when she lived here as a child. She never really fit in, and then when she arrives she sees Claire Sutherland, who is one of her stepsister's best friends, and she thinks there could be a little fun to be had, and she bets her stepsister that she can get Claire Sutherland into bed. But of course, romance ensues. This one was super funny. Like, I was laughing out loud at this one, and it was just so cute as well, and it had such a nice story about those two characters, and I thought they were really well-rounded characters as well, and all of their decisions really made a lot of sense, and I just loved them so much. So another 5-star read, probably one of my favourite rom-coms now, and super steamy as well. Next, I read The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. Nope, I'm going to have to change my battery. Okay, I may have changed positions slightly because I did have to change my battery, but next up I read The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. Again, I have a reading vlog for this one. I have said before, Lucy Foley seems to be quite a sort of hit or miss author. She's quite love or hate for a lot of people. I have read The Guest List and I gave that one 4 stars, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars as well. I thought this one was super creepy and really well written as well. In this one we follow Jess, who goes to visit her brother at his apartment in Paris, and when she gets there he is missing. Everyone that lives in this apartment seems to be super shady. They seem to be keeping secrets from her. She doesn't know what the heck is going on, so obviously she tries to do some digging to try and find out where her brother is, what has happened to him. You get the perspectives of multiple people in this apartment, and that is one of the things I love about Lucy Foley's thrillers, is I love all the different perspectives and how each perspective could be hiding something for you or twisting the truth a little bit, and you have to try and kind of piece all the different vantage points together to try and work out what is actually going on. Yeah, I read this one super quickly. I was properly engrossed in the story. I found it super creepy. Like, this is not one that I think you want to read alone at night, and the twist at the end was absolutely phenomenal, but there was just something about it that didn't quite give me 5-star feels, and I'm pretty sure that was the same feeling I had with The Guest List. Like, I really enjoyed it, but there was just something missing. Next up I read another thriller, and that was Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. You guys know I love Riley Sager so much. He's one of my favourite thriller authors. Final Girls and Last Time I Lied are 2 of my favourite thrillers of all time. I gave them both 5 stars. Love them to pieces. This one I really enjoyed. I ended up giving it 4 stars though. Again, just as creepy as his other thrillers, but it just kind of felt a little bit flat for me compared to the other 2. Obviously it's a 4-star read, there was nothing wrong with it. It was a really good book, but it just didn't have quite the same impact as the other 2 books that I've read by him. In this one we follow Jules, who is recently heartbroken. She doesn't really have any money, she has nowhere to live, and she gets a job house sitting or apartment sitting in this big apartment complex, kind of, at this massive private building called the Bartholomew, and she's basically paid to apartment sit one of the flats there with all these high profile celebrities and rich people who also live in the building. And from the outset it is super dodgy. Like, she is not allowed to bring anyone to the apartment ever. She is never allowed to stay a night away from there. All of the people living there are a little bit shady, and then one of the other apartment sitters in this complex goes missing, and it all gets really fast paced and scary from there. And yeah, I do think this one was really creepy. It really sort of like unnerved me, but I did guess quite a few bits of the plot quite early on. I think that's why it wasn't a 5-star read for me, because with his other 2 books I was just shocked at what unravelled. And for this one, though there was some twists I didn't see coming, the sort of overall idea of it, I got it basically from day one, so it just wasn't quite as good as his other ones for me, but I did love the sort of gothic horror-y vibes. Next up I read another Colleen Hoover, and that was It Ends With Us. You guys know I give this one 5 out of 5 stars, just like I do every bloody book by Colleen Hoover. I also have a reading vlog for this one because I have been doing my little Colleen Hoover reading vlogs recently and I've really been enjoying them. I was obsessed with this book. I went into it a little bit cautiously because I've heard a lot of people who have given it like 2-star ratings and they really did not agree with the representation in this for domestic abuse. However, as I said in my vlog, I just don't think any of us can really comment on that, because Colleen Hoover is literally speaking about her own experience and her mum's experience. So she is writing from the heart, like very raw, honest emotions, and I don't think it's for anyone else to criticise that or to question that, because this is literally how she felt and what her and her mum have been through. In this one we follow Lily, who moves to Boston as a young adult, and she meets Ryle Kincaid, who is a neurosurgeon who seems like this really interesting, sort of dark, almost arrogant guy, and the 2 of them instantly are extremely attracted to each other, although they try to stay away from each other for a long time. But eventually, obviously, they give in to their urges. He has always been very non-committal, he does not do relationships, but he decides to try and give it a go with Lily. And then when things seem to be going quite well, well, her old love Atlas comes back into the picture. That is all you really need to know about this one. Obviously, huge trigger warning for domestic abuse because that is like the main theme of this book, but for me I thought it was handled brilliantly, and like I said before, it is Colleen Hoover's own experience, so who are we to really criticise that? This book made me cry just like all of her other books. I absolutely adored it, and I cannot wait for the prequel coming out later this year. Next up, I read The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. Again, I really enjoyed this one. This one is set at a retirement village, and we follow 4 unlikely friends who meet up once a week to investigate old murders or cold cases. However, when there's a murder right on their doorstep, they decide to do some investigating of this one and end up working with the police to try and work out what is going on. This one, I loved the overall vibe of it. I was laughing out loud a lot at this book. There's a lot of green tabs in here. I just think Richard Osman did his representation of this little retirement village so well. The characters in it were just so lovable and funny, and the plot was good. I just felt like the actual thriller, like crime part of this, the actual like murder case, could have been a little bit better. It wasn't like the shocking twisty sort of vibe I wanted, but for the overall vibes of the retirement village, I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, because the whole idea of these elderly people meeting up and going on these adventures to try and solve a murder case, it was just everything. Okay, next up I read another thriller, and that was The Resident by David Jackson. This one I was so excited for. I talked about it in my TBR pong, because in this one we follow a serial killer. We are looking at his point of view, and he is on the run from the police. He has got a ton of bodies in his wake, and he then finds a group of terraced houses, and the end one is abandoned. So he goes in there to try and hide out for a bit, but he realises if he goes up into the attic, there is a shared attic space with the rest of the houses in this terrace. So obviously he goes along that attic space and starts to wreak havoc on the people living in these houses. This one was super creepy again, just to be following him and watching what he was doing to these people. It was very on the edge of your seat. I think the whole thing just spans a few days of him deciding what he's going to do. It was very tense sometimes. Like obviously you're following him going into these houses and you're not on his side. He is a serial killer, but then when he's there and like someone returns to their home and he's like hiding or trying to get out in time, it gets very tense, very addictive, very sort of unnerving and disturbing. And yeah, I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. This one was actually for a reading vlog for my patrons. The top 2 tiers of my Patreon get a bonus video each month, and for this month I did a reading a random book off my bookshelves. So I got everyone to give me numbers on my bookcase, and this was the one that was chosen. In this one we follow 16-year-old Jacob, who after the death of his grandfather goes to this isolated island to try and find Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, where his granddad apparently was years before. His granddad has told him all sorts of stories about monsters and children with different sort of peculiarities, so he wants to go out and find out once and for all if this is true, and the story goes from there. This one I again really enjoyed. I loved the writing of this. I thought it was beautiful at points, and my favourite thing about this book is that whenever he found photos in the novel of these peculiar children, we got to see the photos as well. Like this whole book is just filled with photographs, and I absolutely love that aspect of it. The photos are super creepy as well. And yeah, I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars as well, I believe, and I do plan to continue with the series at some point, but probably not for a little while. The next 5 books were all books that I read in my recent 24-hour reading vlog, where I read viral TikTok books for 24 hours. So if you want to see more of my thoughts for those, you can of course go to that vlog, because I did talk about them quite a bit in those. But first of all, I read We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, and in this one we follow a young girl called Casey, who each summer her and her family and family friends, I believe, summer together at her grandfather's home, I think. And then one summer something very dramatic and traumatic happens to Katie, but we don't know what it is, and following that she is very unwell and she doesn't remember anything that happened. And this book is basically about her going back one summer and trying to sort of piece together what it was that happened to her. And the twist in this book, I did not see coming. I wasn't quite sure if I was enjoying the book until the twist, and then when the twist made me think about everything I'd read beforehand, I realised that I absolutely loved it. I just thought it was absolutely beautiful, beautifully done, very emotional and thrilling as well, and I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, which is of course an enemies to lovers about Lucy and Joshua, who work for the same publishing company and are basically in the same position but for different bosses. And then a promotion becomes available for which both of them are obviously going to compete to get it. And the story goes from there. It's your typical enemies to lovers. However, I will say they do not remain enemies for very long at all. Like, oh my god, this little thing. They go from enemies to kind of more like friends very quickly. But that didn't ruin my enjoyment of the book at all. I did think this was such a good romance. It was super funny. The sexual tension between those two characters was everything, and it was super cute and romantic as well. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. Next up, I read The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This is a fake dating book in which Olive, who is a PhD candidate, starts fake dating a professor? Is he a professor? Yeah, Professor Adam Carlson. For both of their benefit, they agree to fake date, and obviously the story goes from there. It's your typical fake dating. Obviously they're going to fall in love. I love a bit of fake dating. Love it. And this one was so good. Again, the sexual tension between these two characters was so good. Adam, I thought, was such a good love interest as well. Like, he was so cute and not what you expect from him at the beginning. And this one is kind of like Grumpy Sunshine as well, I would say, because Olive is just like a little ball of happiness and Adam is quite stern to begin with. But yeah, I just thought it was funny, very sexy, and just a really enjoyable read. And I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. Again, this is fake dating, enemies to lovers, Grumpy Sunshine type vibes. It's very like The Wedding Date. Basically, this young girl, Catalina, needs a date to her sister's wedding in Spain because her ex is going to be there and he has moved on and is engaged. So she ends up taking Aaron Blackford, who is absolutely everything. He is my new favourite romantic interest of all time. She takes him as like a last resort because she needs a date, and they fake date at this wedding. And this book is everything. This is one of my all-time favourite romances now. I loved it from start to finish. I thought it was so funny, so cute. Aaron Blackford is just, he's so cute but so sexy as well. And yeah, absolute 5 out of 5 stars. You need to read this book. Finally, for that vlog, I read Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, and I ended up giving this one 5 out of 5 stars as well. It was just so good. In this one, we follow the son of the President of the United States and a prince in the royal family in Britain. And at first they hate each other, and then they must have like a fake friendship to squash some sort of rumours about how much the two nations hate each other, and then it turns into more. And it's just so cute, so funny, so steamy, and like tender and cute as well. I just absolutely loved it. I knew I would. I've been putting this off for such a long time and I have no idea why, because I knew I was going to love this book. But yeah, basically that vlog was a huge success. I read 5 books within the 24 hours and 3 of them were 5 stars. Yeah, 3 of them were 5-star books and 2 of them were 4-star books. So clearly I like viral TikTok books. Okay, we're nearly done, I promise. Next up, I read, again for a vlog, all 4 of the Heartstopper graphic novels. Obviously the Netflix show just came out and Heartstopper is life for everyone. I'm absolutely obsessed with that Netflix show. I have never seen a movie or TV adaptation done so perfectly in my life. It is just, oh, it's just everything, and I love it with all my heart, and I can't wait to rewatch it a million times. So of course I decided to read all 4 of the graphic novels, and I did do a timed reading vlog for this to see how long it would take me to read all 4 books. Obviously these are all 5-star books. These were rereads for me. I've read them a few times now and they're my favourite graphic novels of all time, and I can't wait for the next one to come out. And finally, we are on to our last book of April, which was The Night Swim by Megan Golden. This was the April buddy read pick for my Patreon. So myself and my patrons read this together. I then filmed a spoilery reading vlog for this one, and obviously we discussed it in the Discord as well. I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars, so I'm really happy this was our first pick for my Patreon because everyone seemed to really enjoy it. In this one we follow Rachel, who is a podcast host, and she has come to Neapolis to write her next series about an ongoing case in a rape trial. While she's there, she starts getting very dodgy letters from a girl called Hannah asking her to look into the case of her sister's death. However, this happened 25 years ago and everyone always said it was an accidental drowning, but Hannah has always maintained that it was murder. And as the story goes on, Rachel starts to realise that there's connections between these two cases. This book was very creepy, very gripping, very on the edge of your seat. Some of the actions of people in this were disturbing. One thing I will say is a huge trigger warning for rape. Like, obviously I knew this was about a rape trial, but it does get very graphic at some point and it is discussed throughout. But I thought it was handled very well. I think some of the discussion around rape and around women's rights and women's safety was done really well by Megan Golden, and I also really enjoyed just the overall story. I thought it was very gripping. The only thing is I didn't think it was like a big twisty ending. You kind of had an idea of where it was going for quite a while, I'd say, so maybe not like exactly what happened, but an idea of what was going to happen. So yeah, I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy it and I can't wait to read more of Megan Golden. So that is it for my April wrap up. I am not even going to attempt to pick up all these books right now because I've already nearly injured myself trying to take the thumbnail. But obviously I had an incredible reading month, all 4 or 5 star reads, which is crazy, and you're probably going to say there's no way, like I'm such a lenient rater, which I am, but also I just had the best reading month. I think I was just enjoying reading, and also I just chose books to read that I knew I was going to love. Like, I know my taste at this point, so it's very unlikely that I'm going to pick up a book that I'm not gonna like. April was an absolute peak month for me, and I don't think we're ever gonna top it because who am I? 20 books in 1 month. If you made it to the end of this video, then pop the wave emoji down below, just because the last book I talked about was The Night Swim and we have waves all over here. So pop that emoji down below just to let me know that you made it to the end of this video and that you enjoyed your time here. But as always, if you did enjoy the video, then do please give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe for more bookish content from me. Comment down below with any of your thoughts and feelings. I do reply to every single comment. I love you all and I will see you in my next one.